to use this in the asphalt mixes. Okay, the bituminous mixes. Okay. Again, the similar problems, again coming more on the text form of a problem, that India is the second largest road network, okay, and then we are increasing by a rate of 12 to 40 kilometers per day. And a kilometer of a highway construction consumes about 15,000 ton of aggregates. Okay. Obviously, some number is there, but the use of the aggregates are there. More than 95% of the road network consists of a flexible pavements. Still in our India, we are using more flexible pavements, okay, probably 90 to 95%. So that's why we are focusing more on the flexible pavements. Okay. The good quality aggregates are again a big issue and becoming bigger and bigger issues day by day. Okay. And wherever the quarries are there, the quarries, if they are in a working stage, then they are deteriorating the natural environment of the areas around the quarries and even the human health, the persons who are working there. Okay. So we need to use these kind of the alternative materials. Now, if you see on the second side of the coin, that the amount of the waste which we are generating, the industrial waste which is coming out as a solid waste, okay, is approximately 960 million tons. Okay. So again, the disposal of these waste becomes a bigger issue. Okay. And we are only able to recycle 15 to 20%. Still, we do not have a recent data for all these things. Probably this 20 must have reached to 25%, but still three-fourths of the waste which we are generating is still unused. Okay. So disposable of this remaining waste are only being done by the landfilling or incineration like burning, which consumes large amount of the precious land, which is causing the air, water and the land pollution. Now, this is one very good figure of a status of a solid waste generation. Unfortunately, I could not find it for in the recent times that what is the current status of all these waste in a in a one in a one picture. I cannot find out the recent data that which of the waste is really is having the high production and is not being utilized in the other sectors. So that's why we are using all these things in the flexible payments, conserving the natural resources, reducing the material and the construction cost, preventing the air and the groundwater pollution, saving the land, some materials. Now, the important point is not only to use this waste materials just to use the waste materials. Its importance is that these materials should improve the properties also, should improve the service life also. If we are not getting this part, then there is no agency will use all these waste in the construction things. Okay. So, and it has been found out that many of these waste materials are improving the qualities and improving the service life. Okay. Now, this is for a general idea that what consists of a flexible pavement is that there is a one bituminous surface. It is known as a surface course. Then a one bituminous mix layer, which is known as a binder course. Okay, this is also a bituminous mix. This is also a bituminous mix. Then a granular base layer, then a sub base layer, and the soil subgrade layer. Okay. Now we are only focusing on the bituminous surface. Okay, so this is a bituminous concrete, which is a mixing of a coarse aggregate, fine aggregate, finer fillers. Okay, finer fillers are the aggregate part which is passing through the 75 micron sieve. If you talk about the European specifications, they talk about the 63 micron passing. We talk about the 75 micron passing. Okay, so that is a finer part of the aggregate. So that is the third part. And the fourth part of this bituminous concrete is the asphalt or the bitumen. Okay, so these are the four things which basically makes our bituminous concrete: the coarse aggregate, fine aggregate, filler, and the bitumen. Now this filler serves two purposes. Okay, there are two purposes of this fillers. One is it is acting as filling the voids between the aggregate skeleton which is made by the coarse aggregate and the fine aggregate. So whatever the skeleton which is being made by this coarse aggregate and the fine aggregate, it fills the finer voids by this filler. The another part of the use of the filler is that it mixes with the bitumen. Okay, it mixes with the bitumen and it becomes a thick kind of a mastic, which is used for covering the aggregate surfaces. So the aggregate surfaces which is being covered by a black layer is not only of binder, it is basically a mix of a bitumen plus filler, which is known as a bitumen mastic. Okay, but while interacting with this bitumen, this filler should be inert in nature. There should not be any chemical interaction with the bitumen. Okay, so this is the ideology behind the use of a filler. If it is chemically interacting with the bitumen, it is, you have to check that what kind of chemical interactions are taking place. Few chemical interactions are good as a bituminous concrete, good for the properties of the bituminous concrete. Some chemical interactions are not. Okay, we will see in the coming slides. Okay, so it has been seen by the various researchers that the filler has an influence on the flexible pavement. Okay, so there is a some kind of a relation of a filler on the type of a filler on the properties of the flexible pavement. Okay, and the researchers have find out that the use of a filler can increase the fatigue resistance, can increase the rutting resistance, can increase stripping resistance, can increase the raveling, can increase the low temperature cracking. And obviously, if they are increasing, if you are using the waste filler, it is increasing the economy of a country, of an area also. Okay, so this has been already established fact. Okay, now coming to the mineral filler, those who are not aware of this area, they can try to understand that the fillers are the finest aggregate which is passing through the 75 micron seam. Now, our codal provisions, the Ministry of the Road Transport and Highways provisions says that a filler should have two properties to, to be used as a filler for our pavement construction. So first one is the filler should be free from the organic impurities and have a plasticity index not greater than 4. So if a PI is having a less than 4 value, it can be used as a filler in our pavement industry. And the second and the first thing is the passing through 75 micron. Second thing is PI less than 4. Obviously, these two properties are not very self-sufficient, okay, which we have found out from our research also. And we have find out that PI less than 4 is not a very good criteria. Okay, this should be a good criteria. The filler should be free from the organic impurities, but PI less than 4 probably is not a good criteria. And our own logics, and we have our own justifications that why it is not. Okay, but as per the Indian specifications, they say that the filler in a whole asphalt concrete mix consists of something 4 to 10% by weight. Okay, so that is the amount of the filler. So almost 7 to 8% of the fillers, if you are directly using some waste kind of a thing, it can save some significant quantity of our economy also. Now, again, as I discussed, that filler has an influence on the performance of the pavements. Various against the distresses like rutting, fatigue, cracking, moisture sensitivity, raveling, etc. And this is being shown by the various researchers. This is one only slide for the literature review. And there are so many ways which has been worked upon in the literature. Okay, there are many more. All I could not quantify in this particular slide, but there are many more. Okay, so there are coal fly ash, marble dust, granite dust, rice husk ash, which is an agricultural waste, sugar cane bagasse ash, again in agricultural waste, recycled brick dust, again a construction demolition waste, sewage sludge ash, okay, cement clean dust, coal waste powders, ceramic waste dust, bauxite residue, all such kind of the things have been used. And mostly you will see that such of these use of waste fillers have improved the properties. Okay, most of you will see that it is improving the thing. Only in certain cases you can see only at one or two places, one or two properties have have reduced. Okay, it has worsened the properties. Most of the properties have increased. So this has basically given the primary objectives to work upon, that we have used some glass powder, some limestone dust, copper tailing dust, carbide lime, rice straw ash, red mud, and the brick dust, and the stone dust was a conventional filler, just to compare the properties. Okay. And then we have made our mixes, we have tested our mixes, we have done some engineering analysis, economical analysis, and the global warming potential analysis. That is the environmental analysis we have done. Okay, so this is the methodology we have used. Okay, the carbide lime is being collected. I'll show you all the sources in the next slide. Okay, but for a filler, we did some characterization. Okay, the characterization tests are the particle size distribution, German filler specific gravity, methylene blue, plasticity index, the microstructural properties, that is the SCM and the XRD, pH and the hydrophilic coefficient. Then we did with the conventional Marshall mix design, we did the performance evaluation of the mixes by using some indirect test like the rutting resistance. We use cracking resistance. We did moisture resistance. We did the active adhesion and the active adhesion analysis, and then we did some comparative analysis. Okay. So these are the different fillers which we have studied in our lab. Obviously, construction demolition waste we have taken from our city, Varanasi. Limestone dust we have taken from the limestone industries which are situated in the district of Kota, Rajasthan. The glass powder we have taken from Bhopal. The copper tailings from the SCL industries of the Malanjkhand. Uh, then the carbide lime again from the Varanasi, from the acetylene industry. These are basically, if you have heard about the welding wires, okay, the welding industry. So this is the waste which is coming out of a welding industry, the carbide lime. The rice straw ash is the agricultural waste, again taken from the Varanasi. The red mud we have taken from the Hindalco, that is the aluminum industry near the Renukut. Okay. And the stone dust is a conventional stone dust which we have taken from a local quarry that is in the district of the Sonbhadra. Now coming on a more detailed research methodology, we have done all these characterization tests for the fillers. We did the Marshall mix design. Then we did the testing of our bituminous concrete. Okay. Now the indirect tensile strength for the fatigue cracking, the resilient modulus, the modified Lotman test for the rutting resistance. Oh, for the moisture resistance. Okay. And then we did the comparison of the characteristics of the fillers and the mixes for finalizing the pavement layer thickness. So we basically designed the pavement hypothetically by the values, and then we have tried to compare the cost analysis of the various pavements, and then we have tried to analyze the global warming potential also, whether it is really sustainable or not. Okay, so that's why we did some global warming potential analysis, that is also known as the environmental analysis, and we finally come to some conclusions. Now coming to the first part, that is the characterization of the filler. Okay, so it has been shown in the previous literatures that the fillers which is having the small size particles, they basically show some strong chemical interaction with the bitumen, and they are normally having the high stiffening power also. So you can see in this the limestone dust, the rice straw ash, and the red mud. The red mud part were found. These are one of the finest fillers because we have some values in the next this chart also. The finest modulus are the smallest, and the D50 values are also small. Whereas the cement, the brick dust, the carbide lime, and the glass powder were the coarsest fillers among all the fillers which we have tested. Okay, the finest modulus and the D50 values were found to be, and even the limestone dust and the red mud were found to be well graded. Okay, if you see the red mud and the limestone dust, these are among the well graded fillers. They have the highest CU values also. And whereas the cement, the carbide lime, and the glass powder were found to be uniformly graded. Okay, so one thing I just want to tell you that material with a higher percentage of a uniformly sized materials are normally difficult to compact properly in the field. Okay, so with this, these are the SCM images of all these waste fillers. Okay, of the red mud, brick dust, glass powder, carbide lime, stone dust, copper tailing, rice straw ash, stone dust. And these are the XRD analysis, which will give you the some chemical composition of these waste fillers. Okay. Now this table shows all the characterization of the fillers, and you will find out that the red mud is the heaviest one, having the highest specific gravity. The rice straw ash is the lighter one, having the lightest, having the least value of the specific gravity. Now the plasticity index I was telling, because as per the as per the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways norms, anything having the plasticity more than 4 cannot be used as a filler. But we found the red mud is having the PI value as more than 4, but still it is giving very good results. So that's why we have our own logics. Okay. Rest all are non-plastic in nature or having the values less than 4. The methylene blue value, well, this is not an indicator for the which is there in the Indian codal guidelines, but it is there in the European guidelines. Okay, and it is basically a test for finding out the organic impurities which is present in the fillers. Okay, so most of the values, it is more than 1 except this carbide lime, so that does not have any organic impurities present in the fillers. The German filler value is for the fineness of the fillers. Okay, so you'll see that the copper tailing is the finest of the filler, and this one is the coarsest filler. These are the finest modelers. These are the CU values. These hydrophilic coefficients. Okay, now and this is regarding the pH. Now, just to add you something about the pH values, the bitumen is slightly acidic in nature. Okay, so if you are having a pH value more than 7 or a higher value of a pH, will be a good kind of a filler to interact with the bitumen. Okay, because then they will have a good combination, the acidic and the basic combination. So that's why stone dust is having the highest basic, something like 13, 12.57. But if you will see the limestone dust, it is again 10.22. Only the least basic was the rice straw ash. But all are more than 7. So all are basic in nature, can be used as a filler. This is something about the particle shape and the texture which we have seen from the SEM images. Most of the things are having the irregular or the granular particles. So irregular structure, angular structure, granular structure, subangular structure, which is having a rough texture, all these things are good. Okay, because they'll have a good bonding. Okay. While comparing with the mineralogical composition, most of the fillers are having the calcite. Okay, and calcite is a presence of a calcium, and calcium is basic in nature, which forms a strong bond with the bitumen. But few of the the fillers are having silica. Okay, and there is a problem with the silica. Silica fails in the moisture. Okay, so a higher amount of a silica content will lead to the failure in the moisture, because the if a silica is there on the surface of a aggregate, then the bitumen cannot have a strong bond with the silica. Okay, and there will be a repelling action, and in the presence of a moisture, the bitumen loses the contact of the surface of the aggregate. Okay, and that has been seen in the results also. This is a very conventional Marshall mix design. Those who are not from the pavement side, they do not need to worry about it. And those who are from the pavement side, they must be having a good idea of the Marshall mix design. So we did as per the conventional MS2 method, the MS2 codal guidelines. 15 samples were prepared for bitumen content varying from 4.5 to 5 to 5.5 and 6 and 6.5. The optimum bitumen content of the mix is defined at the bitumen content, which is correspond to 4% air voids. And at OBC, the 3 more mixed samples are prepared just to check out the statistical or the repeatability values for finding out the Marshall stability, flow, VMA, and the VFP. We also try to find out the apparent film thickness, that what is the film thickness around the aggregate with respect to the NCHRP report 567 and the 673. This we have used for the asphalt grading, BC grading 2 for the which has been taken from the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways guidelines, that is the Orange Book. And these are some of the comparison of the results for the Marshall mix design. Now you will see that as compared to the stone dust, because this is our comparative value. Okay, The limestone dust is even using the lower amount of a bitumen content. Okay, the OBC is lower than this 5.38, that is 4.98. So we are saving bitumen, and bitumen is the costliest part in our whole pavement materials. Okay, if we are saving bitumen, then obviously we will save a lot of cost. Okay, so limestone dust, it is only requiring 5% as compared to 5.38 as a conventional stone dust. The red mud, obviously it is taking a more amount of a bitumen, but if you see on a life cycle cost method, then probably the red mud is again because you are utilizing the waste. Okay, so maybe for the right now it is on a 50-50 kind of a thing that we are using red mud. We are getting some higher amount of OBC, but it can be used. And if you see the properties which has been the required properties as per the guidelines, most of these fillers are passing those properties. Like if you see the bulk specific gravity, again, the bulk specific gravity are in a good range of 2.45 or 2.47. So it's a good bulk specific gravity we are getting. The Marshall stability should be 9 minimum. We are getting obviously values more than 9. The minimum for the rice straw ash, which is a agricultural waste, which is having the very fine fillers. Okay, the very finer fillers were there, and which is having the very least specific gravity. Okay, but this highest specific gravity, that is the red mud, is getting the highest Marshall stability also. So one of the strongest mix we are getting from the red mud. Flow values are again in the range of 2 to 4. VMA should be minimum 14%. All are having the values more than 14%. Voids filled with bitumen, it should be between 65 to 75, and all are getting in the range. This slide can slightly conclude that we can use all these waste fillers in our pavement industry. Okay, if you just omit that part of a the plasticity index part, which is it should be more than 4 only. Okay, it should be less than 4. But for a red mud, we are getting the PI value is 9. Okay, only that part, except that part, we are doing good with respect to our Coral guidelines. So this is all about the results of a use of the various waste as a in our bituminous mixes. Okay, my thing is not ending here. So this is all about the comparison what we have talked, what we have discussed right now. Okay. Now coming forward to the various kind of the mixes which we have tested. Okay. Now after making the asphalt mixes, we have tried to evaluate the performance of those asphalt mixes from the laboratory test. Okay. Like for example, there are two basic modes of the failure of a flexible pavement. One is the rutting failure. One is the fatigue failure. Okay. So rutting failure, the original method of doing the rutting test is using the Hamburg wheel rut tester. That is again one of the sophisticated machines. Right now we do not have this in our lab, but soon we are going to purchase this one. So we have done some indirect testing. So that is the Marshall quotient. Okay, so it is the ratio of the Marshall stability to the Marshall to the flow values, and this has been widely done by the researchers, widely accepted in the literature. Okay, so we have done this kind of a Marshall quotient test, and what we could find out that apart from the rice straw ash, all waste modified mixes have higher rutting resistance than the conventional mixes. Okay, so the conventional mixes was with the stone dust, and with respect to stone dust, all the uh, waste modified mixes are having the higher rutting resistance. Okay, now the rice straw ash, why it is lower? Because it's again you'll see it is very finer. It is having a lower specific gravity. Okay, and it is having the lower voids in the mineral aggregate. Okay, so that's why these are the reasons that the rice straw ash was having a lower value. Now coming to the cracking resistance part, again the fatigue cracking has to be checked by the UTM, the dynamic UTM. But again, we are not having that equipment. Again, in a month we are expecting that the delivery of the UTM in our lab. So we have done some indirect testing using some indirect tensile strength. Okay, and again it is as per the ASTM codes which has been given in the D6931 specifications. Now you will see the results. So apart from the brick dust and the rice straw ash, all the mixes are having the higher ITS values. Okay, so only for the construction demolition waste and the rice straw ash, which is again showing some inferior properties as compared to the conventional stone dust. I am still not telling that the rice straw ash modified mixes are bad. Only thing, they are not able to perform as per the conventional mixes which are being prepared with the stone dust. Okay. So all fillers are finer than the stone dust as determined from their lower fineness modulus values. And the finer fillers, as I told earlier also, it is having a greater potential for the uniform distribution, which leads to formation of a good structure, a compact structure, which improve the stiffness and the ITS of the mixes. Okay, so most of the fillers are showing superior properties for the cracking resistance also. Now coming to the next test, which is the moisture susceptibility, which is being done as a tensile strength ratio, that is a TSR test as per the ASTO T283 specifications. Now there is a fixed value that the minimum requirement for this TSR value should be 80% of the TSR, and it is being given in the Indian guidelines. Okay. Now the carbide lime modified mixes are having the highest TSR value. Okay, it is more than, if you will see all the values, it is more than 80%, like 80.47, 81, 84, 86, 87, 89, 93. Only for one mixes the value is lower than 80%, and that is for the glass powder mix. Okay, so the glass powder mixes are failing in the moisture, as I discussed in the previous slides, because of the predominance of a silica. Okay, so silica is the thing which is responsible for the failure in the moisture. Okay, so this is making the weak bond with the bitumen, which breaks in the presence of a moisture. Except this glass dust, glass powder, all these fillers are giving good results or satisfactory results with respect to the moisture susceptibility also. We did some experiments also with the glass powder, how we can leave this glass powder just because it is not being able to sustain one of the results. So what we did is, we did some kind of a modification of a glass powder, and we did some composite fillers. Okay, so we mix some percent of the lime, that is the carbide lime, in the glass uh, powder dust, and we have checked out its performance, and the composite filler performance was again giving some good results. So we can use some percentage, like 3 to 4% of the glass dust and 2 to 3% of the carbide lime. It is becoming a good filler, although it has some kind of a limitations in applications in the field, because who will do that control kind of a mixing in the field. Okay, but we are trying to find out the solutions for that also. So still, in most of the things, the glass powder is giving satisfactory result, but only for the moisture part it is being failing. Now comparing with the active adhesion part. So active adhesion is the ability of the bitumen to completely coat the aggregate during mixing operation. So because when we do the mixing of the aggregate with the bitumen, how fast they coat the whole aggregates with the bitumen. So that is the time of the coating, basically we measure it. Okay. So obviously it is a visual kind of a test. We do it in the lab. So this measurement of the total time elapsed was measured between the moment, the addition of the bitumen, and the moment at which 100% coating is achieved. Okay, so you will see that the stone dust, the mixing time was least. Okay, and for the glass powder, the mixing time was highest. Okay, but rest of the times are incomparable things, like, because it has a slightly implications on the carbon emissions, because you need more mixing time. Okay, so that will lead to the more emissions, more use of the fuel, or more emissions of the gases. Okay.
Hello. Anka sir.
Ankit, Sanchit.
Yes, sir.
So I think he has lost the connection.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Am I connected now?
Yes, sir. We can listen to it now. Yes, sir.
Yes, yes. No.
I'm not sure where I left. Have I completed the active adhesion part?
I
Yes,
think
sir.
you were disconnected just for a sort of a minute only, or a half a minute.
Okay. So I apologize for all this technical hiccups. So the continuing with the this thing, I think I'm only left with the 3-4 more slides. So the passive adhesion we tested with the Texas boiling water test, and it was done. It is just the reverse of the adhesion part that we put the bitumen coated aggregates in a water in a boiling water, and then we see that how much time it takes or how much the coating is being taken out from the boiling water. Okay, so how much of the aggregates remain coated? Okay, so that is what we find out with the uh, passive adhesion. Okay, again you'll see that as compared to the stone dust, every values are almost in a similar values. Only the problem is with the glass powder. Okay, so again the retained coating should be more than 85%, and it was being shown by most of the fillers. Now this is again all these values with respect to the various the histograms are being shown that for the indirect tensile strength, the resilient modulus. Now these resilient modulus we have tried to find out, not from our lab, but from the lab at IIT Kharagpur. And we could find out that this is the stone dust. And you will see that the resilient modulus of all the waste modified mixes are of a comparable nature. Okay, only for the rice straw ash, these resilient modulus is very less, means as compared to the stone dust, conventional stone dust. Rest all of them are in the similar range. Now, with respect to the indirect tensile strength, that is for the fatigue resistance, again, the values of the stone dust, uh, the rest waste modified mixes are again of the comparable ranges, and only again with the problem with the rice straw ash, it is having the lower value. Okay. Now we have seen that we have tried to find out the reasons that why this is happening. Okay, so there are some primary reasons that the fineness of the fillers were found to be the most influential factors for the cracking resistance of the asphalt mix. For the resilient modulus, again the fineness of the fillers as well as the voids in the mineral aggregates are the influential factors on the resilient modulus of the asphalt mixes. And for the tensile strength ratio, that is the moisture sensitivity test, again, if you just leave this part, which is the glass powder part, all are again showing some good satisfactory results. So it is only the mineralogical composition of the fillers are the most influential factor for the moisture resistance, because there is a high silica content. So that's why the tensile strength ratio for the glass powder is low. Now, what we did did with some hypothetical example. We designed a flexible pavement as per the current guideline, that is the IRC 37/2018. We know that the design of the pavements as per the IRC 37 is based on the mechanistic empirical approach, ME approach. and which consider the two type of distresses. One is the fatigue cracking and one is the rutting cracking. Okay. So for the fatigue and the rutting, the two distress models are already been mentioned in the IRC 37, which has been developed by a very old research schemes. And we still feel that these models need to be updated. Okay. But not going on that side, we are only using the models which have been there in the IRC 37. Now we know that the the rutting basically occurs at the top of the subgrade. Okay, so the vertical compressive strain is the major parameter which we need to check at the top of the soil subgrade, and it should be lower than the allowable vertical compressive strain. Okay, so this is one basic fundamental. The another fundamental is that for the fatigue cracking at the lowermost layer of the bituminous, we have to measure this thing, and the horizontal tensile strain should be lower than the allowable horizontal tensile strain to prevent the fatigue cracking. So these are the two basic principles for the design of a IRC, for design of a pavement as per the IRC 37. Okay. So what we have done, that we have assumed 1 kilometer of a pavement for a 2-lane pavement, and then we have tried we have taken the values of the traffic and the other things from one of the already given example which is there in the IRC 37. Okay, so we have taken all these values, like what is the initial traffic, 5,000 CVPD, two-way traffic growth rate 6%, vehicle damage factor 5.2, lateral distribution factor. All this is from the one solved example which has been there in the IRC 37. So we have taken these values from that particular example. Now we have designed the traffic as per these values, and we find out that the design traffic is 131 million standard axle. Okay. Now for the given distress models, that is the rutting and the fatigue models, we find out the horizontal tensile strain at the bottom of the bottommost layer is bottommost bituminous layer is 0.15 or you can say 150 micron, and vertical compressive strain at the top of the subgrade layer was 301 micron. Okay, so these are the values which we have find out. Now we did analysis. So for the analysis, we have used the IIT Pave software. Now, before going on to the analysis, what we did is that the binder surface, that is this asphalt binder surface, that the DBM layer, we have fixed the thickness of the DBM layer as 150 mm. We have fixed the thickness of the granular base and the sub base as 480 mm. We have assumed the Poisson's ratio. We have assumed the elastic modulus. Okay, all these values have been assumed. Now only the values for the surface layer, that is the surface course, the resilient modulus, whatever the values which we have got from our laboratory experiments, we have used those elastic modulus values. And with respect to that, we have given the different trial thickness. Okay. So we have given the different trial thickness for the different waste modified mixes. Okay. So we could see and we could design our pavements with the different values of the layer thicknesses. Okay. So like this is what we have find out, that this is the thickness of the surface course considering the binder course, considering the base and the sub base course, and the subgrade as constant. We have not touched the thickness of those layers. We have not touched the properties of those layers. Only the surface course properties which has been evaluated in the laboratories, we have used this for the analysis, and we could find out that there is some changes in the thicknesses. Like the minimum thickness was getting from something around 44 mm to the maximum thickness is 49 mm. Okay. Now these are the few different values of the optimum asphalt content or the optimum bitumen content, again which we have measured from our Marshall mix design. These are the quantity of the binder. These are the CPWD rates which we have taken from the CPWD manual. And this is how we could find out the quantity of the binder, quantity of the coarse aggregate, quantity of the fine aggregate, quantity of the stone dust. Here, obviously, because we are using all these waste and these all are free of cost. Okay. And one good thing that we have done in this experiment is we have taken the waste directly from the source without any treatment. Okay, so there is no treatment has been done except the sieving, which we have done like for the 75 micron. Okay, and this is the quantity of the waste filler which we have used. So now we can find out the total material cost. This is an approximate cost for the processing of the material, although we have not done any kind of processing except the sieving of these waste. But still we have added the 0.5% of the material cost for the processing of these waste. And we could find out these final values of the waste modified mixes, the asphalt layer for the surface course only. Okay. And with respect to our conventional stone dust, we could find out that if we are using limestone dust, we are saving almost like 10.5% of the economy, almost 5% for the copper tailing, almost equal for the carbide line, almost equal for the rice straw ash. Glass powder, we are saving almost 2%. Brick dust, we are not saving in terms of economy, we are losing 2%. And concrete dust, we are getting 1% saving. So this is just a minor saving with all these waste, but a significant saving with the limestone dust and the copper tailing. Okay. So the use of the limestone and the copper tailing mixes in the wearing course were found to be the most economical and the resilient, because most of the things depends upon the resilient modulus. Okay, because that defines the thickness of a layer. Okay, so the higher the resilient modulus, lower will be the thickness of the layer, and the optimum asphalt content, because again asphalt is the major cost of the material out of all the materials of the binder and the aggregate. So these are the two most influential factors on the material cost. Now we have tried to do the global warming potential of the various pavements, like various waste modified pavements. Okay, so we have done the calculation for the design thickness of the surface and the wearing courses. We have estimated the quantity of the materials which is needed to construct a single lane or a single kilometer 2-lane surface. And then we have tried to find out the calculation of the GHG emission, which is occurring during the production of the materials. Now, I want to clarify that we have done only for the construction stage this analysis. So we have not taken into account the operation stage. We have not taken into account the means we have done only the production stage we have taken into account, even not the construction stage, because construction stage requires the machineries. So that data we were not having. So that's why the construction stage we have not taken in consideration. Only the production of this material, production of the asphalt mixer. So only that stage has been considered, neither the construction stage, neither the operation stage, and neither the maintenance stage. So these three stages of the global warming potential has not been considered. So now these are the kg CO2 equivalent of the coarse aggregate, fine aggregate, and from the virgin aggregates. So these values have been taken from the European literatures. Okay, this is the bitumen equivalent of the carbon dioxide, which is again taken from the European literature, because we do not have these values till now as a standard values given in any of the codal provisions. Now with the different kind of the waste like stone dust, limestone dust, copper tailing, rice straw ash, glass powder, brick dust, cement dust, carbide line, we have done this analysis. Like if we use the coarse aggregate, what is the global warming potential of the coarse aggregate, fine aggregate, stone dust, or any of the waste if we are using. Okay, and then we can find out the total CO2 emission, the total equivalent CO2 emission with the mixing, with the quantity of the mixes which we are preparing for the 1 kilometer of the 2-lane surfaces. And we could find out that if we are using the limestone dust, we are achieving almost 11% of the GHG emissions. But if we are using the rice straw ash, we are losing something around 8.5% of the GHG emissions, or we are emitting 8.5% more with respect to the stone dust. Okay. So we can see that the limestone dust and the copper tailing in the varying courses are found to be the most environmental friendly for the production stage. Okay. Again, I'm claiming this that we have not done the analysis for the production, for the construction stage, maintenance stage, and the operation stage. Maybe if we take the total account and the waste we are using it, okay, the waste, the problems which the waste is generating, probably the GHG emissions of using this waste will be on a positive side. Okay, we have to check it out, but this is just my hypothesis. Okay. So with this, we have tried to move ahead of the engineering properties of the lab. We done the economical analysis. We done the global warming potential analysis. Although we had tried to do the LCA, that is the life cycle cost analysis, but again, LCA is a very data intensive technique. We need a lot of data for the LCA analysis. So still we are collecting these data from the field people, that how much of the fuel they are using, what is the different machineries, what is the use of the fuel in those machineries, like how much they are using for laying 1 kilometer of a road section. Okay, so the different data is still we are collecting to do some kind of an LC analysis, which can give you a better picture of the environmental potential. Okay. So with this, the conclusions of this part of this, the second part is that all these waste fillers which we have used are at least good as per the Indian paving specifications. It is satisfying all the design criteria which is being laid by the Indian specifications. Normally, the fillers which is having the higher porosity, they are producing mixes with the higher bitumen content. Okay, so if a higher porosity is there, which is normally there with the rice straw ashes, with the finer fillers, so they are using some higher bitumen. Okay, so that is again not good sign in terms of the cost economics. In general, the final fillers produces mixes with the higher stiffness and the cracking resistance. So more the final filler, better compact is our structure. In general, the mixes prepared with fillers having the calcium base, water insoluble minerals have superior resistances in terms of all the performances. So calcium based fillers are good as compared to the silica based fillers. Glass powder modified mixes are very poor in the moisture sensitivity and the active and the passive adhesion, and can be used. It is again not cannot be used. It can be used where the water is not a problem. So maybe the arid regions, okay, the desert areas where the water is not there, okay, can be used. So this again has certain implications on the field. So apart from the rice straw ash and the brick dust, the mixes containing waste fillers are displaying some superior cracking and the rutting resistance than the conventional stone dust mixes. And apart from the glass mix, the glass powder mix, all the other waste fillers are giving good results for the moisture resistance. The surface courses, because we have done the analysis only for the surface course. So made with the mixes with the limestone dust and the copper tailing are displaying the least cost also and the lower global warming potential as compared to the stone dust. Okay, the conventional stone dust. The limestone dust seem to be the most appropriate filler because it has a high calcium content. It is a finer filler, so it is a more compact structure we are getting as it forms asphalt mixes with better engineering properties in much economic and environmentally friendly manner. Now, this is again one of my favorite slides, opportunities. Okay, so still, whatever the limited experiments we have done, the result, and then we say that this is coming higher, this is coming lower. Okay, and we sometimes try to understand the interaction or sometimes not. If we try to understand the interaction, we can give an hypothesis that this is happening because of this. But how to prove our hypothesis? So maybe a more chemical interaction, maybe a more interaction analysis, maybe a more microscopic analysis probably is required. Okay, so that is still a wide area is being open in the area of the waste research, where all we all researchers can explore the interaction. Okay. Similarly, if you go on the some literature review, you will see that there are many fundamental researches which is coming out, especially the micromechanical characteristics of these fillers, like how these mastics are affecting the mix performance, how they are again interacting on a micro scale, on a mechanical scale, that how they are interacting with the aggregates, how they are interacting when the loads are coming on it. So these need to be more done on a fundamentally science-based aspects. Okay, so that is again one area where we all can do. These fillers have been used in the normal mixes, but nowadays you will see that there are a lot of modified bitumens are coming. Warm mixes are there. Okay, the cold mixes are there. The wrap mixes are there. Okay, so with all these use of the new kind of mixes, probably the use of these fillers again can be explored. Again, the composite fillers, which I told you, the glass powder as a filler. So the glass powder is failing for the moisture. So that does not mean that we cannot never use the glass powder, because the glass powder is showing some good properties in rest of the other things. Okay. So the only thing we can make the composite fillers means using the glass powder and adding some more calcium based fillers or a lime based fillers, make it as a composite fillers. Obviously, this kind of a making the filler or mixing becomes difficult on the field, but if you can try to make some ready-made pellets out of it. Okay, obviously while making a pellet you need to get some expertise of a material science people also. Okay, so if you can get some pellets out of it, it could be a good commercial product also. It could be used easily by the industries also, and the raw materials, that is the waste fillers, are free of cost to you. Okay, similarly we need to do some live examples, and after the live examples we need to perform the performance of those live examples, those stretches for a long time, to create the success stories, to showcase the success stories. Okay, still such kind of a success stories are there only in terms of laying, like, on many, I have seen lot many videos that there is a plastic waste road is being laying on, as a waste kind of a road is laying on, but I haven't find out any performance based story of a road section which tells about that this road was laid 5 years back with this new technology. In the first year this was the performance, second year this was the performance, third year how the performance were gradually going up or down, what are the maintenance which has been done in the subsequent years. So those kind of the good stories, first of all, we have to do this analysis, the pavement performance studies for some trial stretches, and we have to come out with the analysis, okay, and success stories. Then again, more deeper environmental studies. We did only a limited studies because we were not having data, and especially most of us are not having data. Okay, but we cannot stop like this. Okay, we have to go outside in the field. We try to capture, try to gather the data. Okay, maybe some approximate data, and try to do some kind of a life cycle analysis, life cycle cost analysis. That will give you a more better picture that whether using a waste product is really sustainable or not. Okay, still sustainable is a very big word. It is difficult to say on the sustainability of by using the waste in any of the construction aspects. Okay, until unless you do the full life cycle cost analysis. Okay, and finally, for the implementation agencies perspective, you have to do the cost benefit analysis. Okay, because they are only looking at the cost benefit, and especially the short term cost benefit analysis. They are not waiting for the long term cost benefit analysis. Okay, so obviously the challenges are so many, but to summarize this, we can start convincing the implementation organizations to adopt such waste fillers in the live projects. Okay, and we have to force them. They will not start implementing it by their own. Okay, codal provisions more are required, but still whatever the codal provisions are there, still we can optimize the use of those codal provisions. I have seen there are a lot many codal provisions are there. We can create more codal provisions, but to be frank, we need to push our industry sector to use these codal provisions, the new codes in their construction of the various infrastructures. Okay, and incentives, because this is basically from the policy side of the government, that the government should promote the incentives to use of any kind of waste products, waste fillers. Okay, and these should be really waste. It's not that we are creating first of all these waste and then using these things, like what is happening with the plastic case. Okay, so the policy initiatives from the government is one big challenge. Okay, policy should be sustainable. I always say many times our policy is dependent upon the government. Okay, as the government changes or as the person changes, the policy changes. Okay, so the policy needs to be more sustainable to bring more sustainability in our infrastructure sector. So we can start thinking, working together for making the roads or the infrastructures green, surrounding environment greener, and the country greenest. So the second part was a PhD work of my student, Dr. Jevan. These are some of our references which we have published out of these works, and there are some more references also which I have used and which we have published out, except these publications. So with this, I'm ending this long presentation.